Rewind the Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from Jon and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
Hello, everybody. We're back. It's Jon, Pollock and Wai Ting. Everybody now here for the review of tonight's edition of Dynamite from the Knoxville Coliseum in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's not too often where we just get a insert city here Coliseum.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, I await an insurance company or maybe, an accounting agency to buy that up immediately and rename it. Thank you, Jon, for that wonderful transition. We are in front of the paywall where we're talking to all of our free audience. We, of course, just had our news discussion in our XL edition where we just had a conversation about a lot of the top stories of the day, including, Jon, stories about Brent Bozell III. Why is this man back in our news cycle?
Yes, the man behind the Parents Television Council. What a comeback of the year that I was not expecting. And who other than number 47 somehow resurrecting Brent Bozell III.
Of course, also discussing Corey Graves' return to NXT, Ricky Starks requesting his release, Netflix CEO talking about WWE Raw success, AEW Dynasty being announced for Philadelphia, and TNA hosting a live show in San Antonio. So about 35-minute discussion that Jon and I just had about all of those things, including feedback and questions later on in the Post Wrestling Cafe for those of you who choose to subscribe to the XL edition.
So go XL, postwrestlingcafe.com, $6 gets you 30 days access to all of the XL programs we put out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, plus your Post Wrestling Cafe subscription will bring you Rewind Away on Thursday as Wai and I are chatting Armageddon 2008, featuring Edge, Triple H, and Jeff Hardy for the WWE Championship, John Cena versus Chris Jericho, and then in the main event, Matt Hardy versus Vladimir Kozlov, and your co-feature, the Santa's Little Helper 8-woman tag match, as we are 2 weeks away from Christmas.
Surprisingly, most of those names that you actually mentioned are still very active in the industry, with the exception of Vladimir Kozlov.
How has he not done a blood sport?
You know what? That you should send a message to Josh Barnett. Maybe
I might have to. That. Okay, maybe that's the guy to. Yeah. Oleg Prudius, yes. Mm-hmm. So that will be coming out on Thursday, and we'll also make mention all of our usual shows, including Rewind to SmackDown, will be up Friday night, and Saturday, we've got Collision Course with Kate and John Cena, while Wai and I will be tackling Saturday night's main event from San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, very busy. Also, shout out to MCU Later, who continued their Daredevil primer. They just talked about season 2 featuring The Punisher, so I really enjoyed those conversations. They just had Scrump on to talk about it with them, so check that in the Post Wrestling Cafe.
Yes, and Rich Fan all over post-wrestling duties this week. Not only the Daredevil primer with WH Park, but he joined myself and Brandon Thurston today for a big discussion on the WWE TNA relationship, and he also weighed in on the Tessa Blanchard story as well. So we got heavily into that, as well as many other stories going around, including the Netflix earnings for the past quarter.
Awesome. Great.
Dynamite, Wednesday night. 2,550 tickets distributed per WrestleTix. And we also got news late in the day that because of the inclement weather, there were some flight cancellations, and Samoa Joe Nick Wayne is going to be rescheduled. So that was yanked from the card, but everything else did stay intact that they had promoted in advance. They also added a Hangman Page match late to the show, which was very brief, and it was no Tommy Invincible.
No, I await that guy to hottest prospect in the game, Tommy Invincible, that guy.
Shivani brings out Will Ospreay, and he is followed by Kenny Omega, and Kenny Omega reverting to his battle cry theme.
Interesting.
After he came out to the new theme at Wrestle Dynasty, but also last week against Brian Cage, he came out to that theme, so it was back to his old AEW theme here.
Could be, a response to maybe like the preference of an audience, or he could be saving it for a special, attraction type of appearances. Yeah.
Well, Will tells Kenny, I'm glad you're not dead. And Ospreay explains he's got nothing to do with the Don Callis family anymore. He's trying to stop them because they're keeping him in the way of going after the AEW title that Jon Moxley has taken hostage. And Omega just cuts him off, reminds Ospreay, you dropped me on my head at Forbidden Door and stabbed me in the head with a screwdriver. And I still don't believe that you are better than me. And it took diverticulitis for people to even know that Will Ospreay exists. And now that I'm back, you are number 2, I am number 1, and I will never trust you. But you never say never, Wai. What 15 minutes can do for two heated enemies here?
You jump off of a balcony and trust with somebody, all right, I'm your best friend.
Yeah, they came to, They were able to trust one another by the end of this segment. So Callis walks out, and Omega just goes for him and walks into a trap because all of the Callis family members are out to attack. So Ospreay joins in, and we get a big brawl that goes from the ring into the floor and then into the concourse area. Archer and Cage are out with Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, and it's just this brawl all over this building. And finally, Ospreay and Omega come together. They put Archer through the merch stand, and then it's still 3-on-2, and Ospreay scales up the wall like he's goddamn Spider-Man on top of this balcony while Kenny Omega climbs the lighting truss, and together they hit these giant moonsaults. Unfortunately, the camera didn't get a great angle of Kenny Omega's, but this crowd went wild for this. And
yeah, I imagine they might have intended on both dives being at the same time, and maybe it was just slightly mistimed. I mean, either way, it looked spectacular. Maybe this happened exactly. It's kind of, this is pretty unprecedented. Like, I don't know any company that's ever had to shoot a double dive from those heights before.
Well, yes. So they did the dives, and yeah, this crowd goes wild for this. And
it's amazing.
This was the moment that these two realized, yeah, we're brothers. And what a reconciliation this was for these two. And they take everyone out. They climb back. They have a united truss here as is being showcased, and Omega challenges them to face Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher at Grand Slam in Brisbane, and they would officially announce this later, sometime on February 15th.
Yeah, we'll find out soon enough, but yes. Are we at least assuming that it'll take the place of Collision that evening?
If it's at 8 o'clock, yeah.
But there's no way they're doing...
You know what? There's not going to be any Collision that night because of the NBA. Like, it would have been preempted if they were not doing this Australia show. So I would say, like, there's not going to be a Collision. This will be wherever it is on the schedule. If they were just putting up Max, you would think, like, maybe they're even going to air this live. The fact that they're still actively promoting TNT... we had, there was some thought that it might air, but after all of the NBA stuff, which would be really late in the, like, you're talking like 11 p.m. or you get a great lead in from the NBA, but you're kind of at the mercy of how long the All-Star festivities go that night.
Yeah, listen, I don't know like what the priorities are. It could be that like they want to maintain the first airing for TNT because they have obligations for advertisers or whatever. But it presents a wonderful opportunity to make Max feel like it's a priority for your audience. If you are able to advertise, we're going to have a live, broadcast of this from Australia for sicko time. 2 a.m. Eastern, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Like, that's what I would make it live on Max for the diehards, and then you air it after the NBA stuff on Saturday night, and you're going to get a huge lead-in of people watching the NBA. Like, that will do well, even at 11:30 at night, and your hardcores are going to go to Max and sign up for your service, potentially. Like, that, I don't know. Like, sometimes again, when it sounds so simple...
We don't know what the priority is, Anyway, I hope that eventually that's the plan. Back to this particular segment. I love this segment, John. In one segment, I thought that they managed to give us like...
Did this beat Hulk Hogan at the Intuit Dome for your favorite moment of 2025?
No, not quite. No,
not quite. Okay, that's still number one.
Not just yet. That was still the best. But like, I thought they gave you enough narrative, okay? Just enough for me to buy that these two, who the last time we saw, they were at odds with each other. gave me enough to understand that they would be on the same page. I think the brawl was the key to it all because the brawl was so good. Them working together to do that double suplex on Archer and then the double moonsault, like those moments felt like they were straight out of a comic book. Okay, at the beginning, okay, like Captain America and Iron Man hate each other, but okay, like they fight a few Hydra agents and they do a cool move together. He's like blasting his laser cannon off of his shield, and like that's enough, as a fan. And it's just like both of these men, they're not only great in ring performers, I also think that they're really good at creating these sort of like memorable moments that have some sort of narrative attached to them within their matches. So you just see them together in every instance that we've had so far, especially this one. There's something magical about seeing this pairing together. Two of the, it's not even arguable. They are the two best in-ring performers in the world. This is the type of pairing that I think could put AEW like really back on the map. And I think that they are hedging on those bets too, by the verbiage in the promo. We're here to restore the feeling, right? So for all the discussion about like maybe people thinking Darby is going to be the one to unseat the Death Riders, I really do think, especially with the reference here from Ospreay asking essentially Kenny's help to take care of the Callis family and then presumably the Death Riders, this is going to be the end of the Death Riders story. You're looking at it within one of these two, and having one of them win the championship and the other going for that championship is sort of the perfect follow-up to the Death Riders story.
Yeah, I thought it was a great opening to everything. I'm going to reiterate this fact that just like this was spectacular watching like these moonsaults, but that height, and it's like we're talking like right to the floor, and this is Kenny Omega doing this. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
It's wild to me. Like this was a significant height that he was doing this, and it looked like from the angle I could see like a gorgeous moonsault. So yeah, you got a really spectacular open to this show, and you're right. Like this does feel like the closest AEW has to kind of their sort of mega powers. If we're gonna continue with the Terry references, yes. Private Party against the true mega powers of the entire world. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. They come out. Their latest T-shirts, all yellow. MVP's on commentary, and boy, all I want to know is what Private Party we're told. It's like, are we losing the belts tonight? Yes. Are we going to go down with a fight? Kind of, but not really. Well, we are the baby faces, right? You can try, but you're pretty much getting steamrolled here, and the crowd is going to completely be behind the Hurt Syndicate. I just thought this was a absolute, like, whatever your worst case scenario was, if you were a Private Party fan, this was realized here, and we will get into it. And I don't have like a strong feeling either way, but it was just like Private Party just felt like collateral damage here, and this was just the period at the end of the sentence of this title reign.
Agreed. I also think that this is exactly what it should have been. It's no fault of Private Party. Okay, I don't think they were given a fair shake in this particular run, but it hasn't been a strong run, to say the least. You need a statement-making match to tell the audience that, hey, it's going to be a different tag division. And I think that's what you got tonight.
Like Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, they are the Road Warriors, and this is 1986. They are baby faces that are just running through people. Like they barely sell, they just kill people, but this audience loved it because these guys are they just kick ass and they win. That's like quite a babyface formula. And I mean, that was the case here. They had Zay get slammed through the solid oak desk, and Doc Samson has to come and check on Zay, who fights his way back. This crowd is just chanting for Bobby after this. And I mean, Benjamin just Germans Quen multiple times. He's lifted and slammed by Lashley, step up knee, spear to Zay. I mean, total domination here. 9 minutes, 10 seconds, and this crowd goes nuts for the Hurt Syndicate and for Private Party. I don't know. I don't know where they go after this, but I mean, they did put the titles on the team that they are pushing and then some. And, I just hope that they are able to have a reasonable tag team division here, because it just feels like these guys are just going to murder every team unless you get a kind of Cage and Archer up to that level.
You're seeing the building blocks here. We got Buddy Matthews and Brody King, who I think are going to, they're already going to be taken as a serious tag team in a similar vein as like these two dominant, wrestlers to oppose them. Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay are suddenly a tag team right now, and that is already going to be a big match if they announce it. So again, I think this needed to be a statement to the audience that this is going to be a different tag division. Private Party, again, no knock on them, but they're much better as chasers anyway. So I hope that there's something for them. I hope they react to this like complete bludgeoning from these two, and I hope they use that as motivation for a new campaign towards the championship. But this to me was exactly what it needed to be, and I think it also tells you like they've done such a great job. Like Lashley was already a monster, that's a given, but they've done such a great job with Shelton by reframing him as another monster that you feel like you're now capable of a Road Warriors type of tag team rather than what the Hurt Business was, which was really just Lashley and like kind of two jobbers next to him.
Mark Briscoe was also out to check on Private Party after the fact, so that was kind of the only sort of follow-up with Private Party at the end of this.
We also had a Jon Moxley promo and a packed video prior to this, and it was just Moxley talking about Cope falling asleep in 2011 and waking up to a world where he doesn't belong, and just making mention of Cope's neck hanging on a thread just like Danielson's was, and how he'll be happy to completely sever it, I suppose. So that was a setup for the main event tonight.
Stay tuned. You might see paralysis. There was a video for Mariah May and Tony Storm, and they're going to do their meeting on Saturday's Collision, which is at Daly's place in Jacksonville. Renee interviewed Tony Storm. Harley Cameron comes in to wish her good luck, and Tony Storm informs her, as a fellow Australian, that you could be on the card too. And I was waiting for Harley to ask, when is this event? And then they proceeded to just go back and forth with as many Australian references and lingo as they could. I can't recap this.
It's nearly impossible to. Yeah. I didn't know there was so much particular Australian lingo. I mean, we all speak English, but they're clearly not.
Alex Marvez spoke with Jeff Jarrett, and Karen comes in, and she was not happy with Jeff Jarrett's promo last week. So she was one of many, and didn't like how he got into the mud. That's not you. And I didn't like it. And Jeff reassures her, I've got this. And he heads out to the ring, and Excalibur mentions how Owen Hart's name was brought up last week. And Jarrett talks about when he was young and wrestling a tag match, and he got into it both physically and verbally with his opponents. And afterwards, Jerry Lawler, his mentor, came to him and told him never to get in the gutter with your opponent. And Jarrett said how it's good to come home. They are in Tennessee tonight to remember who you are. And MJF is going to find out who the last outlaw is. We're going to settle this Southern style without lights or cameras. And the fans, you gave me the gift of believing in myself that I could become AEW champion. And he calls out Jon Moxley. And the Death Riders music plays, and he's looking toward their entrance when Claudio appears and decks him with an uppercut and tells him that nobody gets to Moxley without going through him first. Stay out of our business. And Jarrett gets on the mic saying, you'll have to kill me to stop me. And we are going to get Jeff Jarrett against Claudio Castagnoli next week in Huntsville, Alabama. And if Jarrett can win, he will get his shot against Jon Moxley.
Mm-hmm. So I expect Claudio to beat Jarrett in this one. And
yes, I think Jarrett gets this title match, but this is going to be most of the year is him going to be trying to get this title match.
It's simply way too early for Jarrett to already, ascend the ranks to be able to get a shot at Moxley. I think it also in no world should Claudio Castagnoli lose to Jeff Jarrett, and I hope that they're protective enough and know enough about that the audience's expectations to book a match like that. He also needs motivation, of course, to enter the Owen, and of course MJF is likely to get involved somehow as well.
Yeah, I mean, just your options for later. If Moxley loses this belt and Jarrett challenges an Omega, an Ospreay, or a Darby, I mean, the candidates are endless.
I'm actually very interested in all of those matches. Don't you want to see what a Kenny Omega could do with the Jeff Jarrett?
I want to see all of these matches in 2025, and we might.
The other thing, I thought this was good and an interesting response to the negativity to that MJF and Jarrett segment, which was maybe the most talked about thing coming out off of last week's show. This was essentially the show admitting that, hey, like we did wrong by this storyline. We did wrong by Jeff Jarrett, and we're going to set things right. And I thought they did.
I think that this was a good understanding of things because, like, Wai and I were not together last week, but like I certainly felt that I understood why there was all this negativity on the front half of that promo, but I thought the second half was very strong, but it became very clear the first half overshadowed the rest of it. And I think that there was an acknowledgement there that it didn't matter if you were into the last half or not. More people were put off by the front half that they had to kind of retcon this and give an explanation for Jarrett going this direction and to kind of babyface him after he didn't come off as such to many people last week. I was really glad we got a follow-up with Megan Bayne. They had a whole video highlighting her appearance in the Casino Gauntlet last week, and there were several references to her. So it does feel like they, she will be in, and she'll be somebody to watch as well. I like the fact that this wasn't just forgotten this week, and in 3 weeks we get Megan Bayne showing up unannounced or something.
What about her big win over Atticus Cogar?
That didn't get mentioned here. No, unfortunately not. No. Okay. Swerve Strickland against AR Fox, or should we say Dante Fox against Killshot here on Dynamite. Ricochet is shown in the back with his scissors, and Swerve is controlling throughout the picture-in-picture break, and it's Fox going after the shoulder of Swerve, but then Swerve hits a backbreaker, deadlifts him into a power slam, and then calls for the house call when Ricochet appears, and Nana chases him to the back with a pipe. So that allows Fox to hit a running kick and the low main pain, which Swerve lays down from, and it's Fox missing the 450, and after a rolling flatliner, hits the house call and Swerve stomp, pinning Fox in 9 minutes and 14 seconds, and then afterwards Swerve offers his hand, and Fox accepts, realizing ever since we broke up, I've basically been off television, so I would love to have an alliance with you, Swerve. And then Ricochet appears on the screen mentioning the risks that you take when you bully people, Swerve, and he reveals the scissors up against the neck of Prince Nana, but instead of slitting his throat on live television, this was just a warning shot, and he says that this might be Swerve's house, but there's a new landlord in town.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I've come to love Trevor with the glasses and the scissors. Like, this is an action figure that I would love to see them make and sell in toy stores. Like, it's a very easy Halloween costume too. So I mean, if it's the character's hot enough,
this could be Braden in October.
Oh my goodness, yes, Braden Harrington. Just dress up as him all the time.
Turtleneck,
please.
Shades, the beard, and gold scissors
in your pocket. Yeah, the match is almost secondary. It was a good match. Obviously, some good chemistry between the two, and maybe. Interesting to see if AR Fox becomes a part of this Swerve Nana tandem at this point. But I don't know. I'm just really enjoying all of this Trevor stuff, And I think we should continue drawing a distinction between what was in Ricochet and what currently is in Trevor. Even the haha feels like it's more of like a Joker laugh these days rather than something like kind of sad.
He's definitely found his footing, I think, with this character, and I'm curious to see how he can. It's only been several weeks since this, but it really does tell you what like a big heated angle where you bludgeon a man near death can do to revive your character.
Let's talk also about the Swerve segment afterwards, because Swerve challenges him to a match in 2 weeks.
Well, they set this up last week, actually.
Okay.
So they've been promoting this for several weeks for Atlanta in 2 weeks' time. And Swerve later in the show just tells Ricochet, you're going to get the most dangerous man in AEW in 2 weeks, and maybe I'll catch you sooner than that. So that's the big match for Atlanta in 2 weeks.
I'll catch you sooner than that sounds to me like we might be in store for another home invasion, which I can only hope for.
Oh, man. Could you imagine?
Samantha, watch out. All right.
Oh, that's, man, next week, look out. The New York Minute Jericho reacts to their loss in the 12-man tag. Didn't bring up how the show performed or any quarters, but basically is annoyed at Big Bill for not learning after this loss. And Big Bill challenges Powerhouse Hobbs. He's going to come looking for him this Saturday in Jacksonville at Collision. MJF comes out and he kicks the enhancement guy out of the ring, who is here for the match with Hangman Page, Tyler Shoop. And MJF addresses Jarrett, says that he deserves an apology. I offered to help you because I thought you'd be the easiest to manipulate and beat. And he laughs off the notion that Jarrett's going to win the title without MJF's help. Pro wrestling doesn't love you anymore, Jeff. Neither do the fans, who then chant Double J. He just calls them dumb hicks. And it's better to make a deal with the devil rather than defying him. And out walks Hangman Page, who's looking at his watch here, that he's got a match to get to. And we get a brief interaction here of Hangman Page with MJF, which is kind of interesting because we did have like the Hangman Jeff Jarrett program several months back, and kind of weaves Hangman Page into this orbit with MJF.
Yeah, WWE will often do these sort of like transition things as sometimes they're teases, but oftentimes they don't really lead anywhere. They're just like transition segments. AEW doesn't really do them so often. So when you're seeing MJF with a Page, I'm more likely to think that it's an actual tease for a program in the future.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if this is sort of going to be this pathway where Hangman starts to like these veterans that he has gone to war with are going to become his allies, obviously with Daniels, and this is kind of indicating something with Jarrett down the road as well. So that was that tease. Hangman just murdered Tyler Shoop in 18 seconds. Didn't even need a buckshot. Just beat him with a regular lariat because the post-match sees Christopher Daniels come out in a neck brace, and Hangman's furious, asking him if he's got to beat him up again. And Daniels explains, I just wanted to be a friend to you, and I approached it the wrong way. I let my ego accept the most violent match against the most violent man, and I'm going to regret this for the rest of my life because doctors have advised me to never wrestle again. So I'm here to tell you, Hangman, you win. This is goodbye. I hope you can be happy now. And he leaves a very conflicted-looking Hangman Page, who has to realize that he has now retired his former mentor. And we didn't get to talk about this. If you missed this Texas Death Match, if this is in fact, and it sounds like it very well could be, Daniel's last match, what a match to go out on. This was incredible. Daniels has always been, seriously, one of the best bleeders out there that doesn't get any of the recognition for it. But my God, he left half of his plasma in that ring, and this match was just this was tremendous. I thought this was one of the best TV matches that AEW has had in quite some time, and I just thought this was an excellent performance from both.
2025 might be the year of the wrestling retirement, and most people.
This is going to be the most low-key one we might get.
Yeah, I was saying most people are capitalizing on that, and I respect to Daniels for not wanting to make a big deal out of it whatsoever. It was a taped show, so it just occurred, and then we kind of got some of those reports. So it was a hell of a way to go out. I mean, I maintain, I think I haven't been interested in the stories and really the build to a lot of these, but I mean, in ring, you can always expect something very solid. And coming out of it, how they use it for Hangman Page, clearly they are trying to, like Page is already a babyface to much of the audience, but this is almost just, I see their way of actually transitioning him to a babyface status. He's violent, just like he was with this poor jobber here, but there's still heart there. There's still some conscience in there from this guy who's showing a little bit of remorse for ending Chris Daniels' career.
Mercedes Moné is in the back with all of her belts, and we walk over to another super sad looking celebration with like a bunch of balloons in this corner of the production. I mean, Jesus Christ. This was like an hour before the show. Hey, we're going to do a celebration.
You don't know what it looks like. You don't know what it looks like inside. It could be the greatest party ever.
Well, they didn't take us inside. This was it.
Well, it's a VIP access only party.
Okay, well, she tells Renee that she's about to wrestle in Australia, and Harley Cameron comes in and sings her challenge to Mercedes Moné to face her at Grand Slam. And Mercedes informs her, you've never won a match on AEW TV ever. So the answer is no. Can't say I disagreed with this. I'm sure this is the match we're going to get, but I'm glad this wasn't just accepted on the spot with with absolutely no rationale behind her getting a title match.
No. But I mean, this was great. First of all, like, she's really good.
She's very good, and I think like you've got 3 weeks here, and she can do some build towards this and have like a big like spectacle type of match with Mercedes at this show.
She's really good not only at her ability to create these songs, but to play them live flawlessly on live television in these sort of one-take segments with her expressions and everything. Like, she's just a very talented, performer even outside of the wrestling. But at this point, like, I think this is the exact sort of singles push for Harley Cameron that the audience has been clamoring for. We've established the goal. Get a match on Grand Slam and maybe even a match against Mercedes Moné. So we have sort of like her hero's journey that we're set on. I mean, even if it's not against Mercedes Moné, I think I don't think the audience will necessarily be disappointed, but she's over enough that the audience would love, especially in Australia, to see her face Moné.
Jamie Hayter against Julia Hart. Number 2 after their match back on January 1st. Hart rams her back into the barricade, and then Hart gets sent into the steps. Hayter comes back with multiple German suplexes, applies a single crab, and then it's Julia Hart with a tilt-a-whirl into the octopus hold, and Hayter uses a backbreaker out of that. She's hit with a crucifix bomb, and then the hate breaker stops Hart's momentum and follows with the Haterade in 9 minutes and 35 seconds. I thought like a very good match that they had. The crowd was not that much into this one for the length that it went, but this did even the series between them. And Hayter afterwards says, "I respect people like you that do whatever you want, even if it was trying to kill me. Now that you're alone, you're still a tough bitch," and agrees to have a rubber match whenever Julia Hart wants it. I was like, you messed with this woman week after week. You had the lights come out. You were shooting arrows at her. I mean, a very forgiving person is one Jamie Hayter. Maybe that was the theme of this show, is that there was a lot of forgiveness in the air. Maybe they had their own moonsault session before the cameras started rolling.
What's a screwdriver stabbing? What's a bow and arrow stabbing? Soon enough, I think Ricochet and Swerve, I think, will be best friends too.
Yeah.
So this kind of felt like Julia Hart's own version of the types of promos that we've had cut on Buddy Matthews and Brody King to transition them over from the House of Black to whatever their current babyface incarnation is.
Hobbs responds to Big Bill. He'll be waiting in the parking lot for him on Collision. Brody King, Buddy Matthews, and Julia Hart had a pre-taped, a video package here, and they had a voice guiding them, but now that voice has gone silent. And I'm waiting for an Instagram video to confirm. My voice doesn't sound silent to me. I don't know why you would say that. Me and Adam Cole just had a match. Like, what's so weird about this?
I love that. I also love that suddenly Malachi Black sounds like he's from Brooklyn.
Well, got to work on this.
Dutch is very hard. A very hard accent to do.
It is. I've struggled with Gunther this whole year.
But they actually have a dog. The Hellhounds have a dog.
Do they have a literal dog?
Yeah. Brody King was walking with
okay. I heard them. Well, he said they're moving ahead with no leaders, no rules, no gods, and no masters, just violence. And when they bark together, which I guess is the 4 of them.
Including the dog. Yeah, they replaced Malachi Black for
I was so hoping. Brody barked at the end of this. I was so hoping the 3 of them were going to bark together, and I would have lost my mind. It would have been the best.
No, I think you got to have a good bark. I don't really want to see Julia Hart bark. Maybe Buddy Matthews is a good one.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think they should have done like a mock funeral for their leader, and that could have been the write-off for Malachi Black?
No, I don't think so. The less said, the better.
Okay. Well, the nun said the better, pretty much. It's like this guy just like poof.
Well,
disappeared.
What's the funeral from? What exactly, did he lose?
It's the spiritual send-off. It's the elimination of this character that we've seen for 3+ years.
But what was eliminated? Like, what brought the elimination? Because he lost to Adam Cole, just kind of walked to the back.
They've sacrificed their leader to advance themselves. They are stronger without
here's the thing.
restraints.
Like, wouldn't you have at least expected that? But then that would have made them heels, wouldn't it?
I don't think so.
if they attacked and turned, like if they turned on an attack.
They sacrificed their leader that they have freed themselves from to become stronger.
But people would boo them and cheer Black, I feel.
I don't know about that. Well, anyway.
It's okay.
He's gone.
It's over.
And these three are moving forward with a dog. Ospreay and Brian Cage. Some of these stories are just ridiculous when you recap them. Ospreay and Brian Cage is announced for Dynamite. Even Tony Schiavone was confused what match is on what show, and Excalibur had to save him. So all we have is Ospreay, Brian Cage next week, and Jarrett against Claudio, which is quite the lineup so far for next week in Huntsville. Cope against Pac is our main event. So this was like the slowest match I think I've ever seen Pac be a part of, and it was a methodical match. And I don't mean that as like I'm being kind, like this was boring. I was not bored with this. It was very much an Adam Copeland, very thought out match that was going to be heavy selling on especially his neck. That became the focus of Pac's attack and was the whole setup with the promo earlier on. And it's Pac driving Cope's neck into the apron and starts kicking away at it. And the crowd is booing this. He applies the bulldog choke. And then Pac starts kicking the leg, as Excalibur is noting, the 7 screws required to fix Adam Copeland's tibia. And then Cope would, as soon as he's getting like beaten down to such a degree, he would fire back with something like an inside out lariat. He then hits an impaler. Pac then leapfrogs a spear, and Cope picks him up onto the shoulders, and he's caught in the brutalizer, and he goes down to the mat, and then they crash by the ropes. He's free. And then Pac comes from behind. He kicks Cope right in the back of the head. And this first kick, I thought he killed this guy. He came so hard. Maybe this was just the best looking kick, and Pac maybe is the holder of this incredibly looking kick. But when he hit this guy in like the back of the neck and head with this kick, oh my God, I just cringed. And down goes Cope, and Pac continues to kick at the neck, and Bryce is holding him away as they're teasing that Cope has been paralyzed here. And then Pac waits in the corner, and he pounces on him with the brutalizer, and Cope has to battle to his feet, slams free, spears the lower back of Pac, and then hits the regular spear to win the match, and Cope gets the victory. But we go to the back, and the Death Riders, they have kidnapped FTR, who are taped and tied up, and the Rock and Roll Express are dead again on the floor, and they hit a concerto to poor Ricky Morton, who just took out his son on the GCW show, and now 3 nights later is taking a concerto. So all 4 of them are just left for dead. As they come out, Cope is all alone. He gets beaten down. Jay White comes out to help, and he goes to hit the Blade Runner when Yuta low blows Jay White, and they beat the shit out of Jay White too. So Cope and Jay White are just left laying, and this is the 400th show in a row where the baby faces are left laying at the end. But it does seem like, just guessing here, Jay White being the opponent for Australia and Cope getting the Revolution match. That would be my thought, unless you're going to do some tag or something.
Really? Okay, because like,
why else would Jay White be involved here?
I mean, it's a good question, but man,
you got like, the New Zealand guy in Australia.
You did nothing to make me want to see Jay White
not at all.
challenge
Like nothing. They couldn't even like have him hit the Blade Runner here, and it's just, I understand building heat on guys, but man, you got to give your baby faces like it's every show ends like this.
Well, yes. But I just like, just going back to Jay White, I just don't get that sense at all that Jay White is that person. At most, I could see him teaming with Cope to take on a.
Well, they might do that
match.
if this is like not viewed as. I think Moxley and Jay White, I think that's a stronger hook, but maybe they do just go with the tag, and it's Moxley and Claudio or Moxley and somebody.
Yeah. I'm seeing that maybe the more likely scenario rather than like
you could also do an 8-man too if you include FTR.
If you include the Rock and Roll Express, you could have another. What is it? How many people are 12? Yeah, another 12.
Why not? Tag. Let's do it. The learning tree are ready. They're ready.
The Rock and Roll Express aren't here for no reason. Okay, we're gonna get them in that match. Yeah. Yeah, I'll say I thought I thought it was a good match in that it was necessary to establish the Adam Copeland neck injury, which is going to be play a bigger role in the rest of the storyline. But I have to say I don't know if it achieved the atmosphere that I think they were hoping for.
No.
You know, the finish too came really out of nowhere. He hasn't.
Oh,
really
I totally skipped over. He hit the spear, and then he introduced a whole new finisher with the spinning TKO that he utilized. So my mistake for overlooking that. But yeah, he did introduce a whole new finisher here that he beat Pac with.
And I get it. Like you need to eat some of these flat finishes from time to time when you're trying to establish a new finish. But I mean that was sort of the result of this. I thought also the final segment with the beatdown here, again, ended the show on a bit of a flat note compared to the heights of the rest of the show. When we're comparing, again, the Death Rider segment to like the excitement that we have for Omega and Ospreay teaming together to the excitement we might have for like the Hart Syndicate, you know, going on this new tag title reign. It just maybe unfortunately further paints this Death Rider story as one of the lower points of the show. And for the A program with the world title attached to it, that's never really the feeling that you want.
I don't disagree. I think that there was so much enthusiasm for Ospreay and Omega that just had such a different feeling of just an organic like groundswell among the audience that, you know, they feel like two superstar baby faces. And I think that has been a real struggle for the Death Riders to have that kind of opposition that feels like that. I mean, to a degree you have that with Cope, but it is
not the same. No, not yet. And again, like Moxley needs to take out these people en route to, like, you know, the actual people who might actually defeat him in like an Ospreay and Omega. But I just don't sense like the conversation about the Death Rider story being a disappointing part of the show changing as a result of tonight's episode.
Yeah. So we will see what the direction is. If they go with Jon Moxley against Jay White, I think like this kind of setup, like this should have been then Jay White laying out Moxley with the Blade Runner. You're not pinning him. You're just getting the upper hand here to give a reason to believe in this guy.
Yeah, exactly. So for that reason, I don't really see it. But again, we'll find out. You know, you could have Jay White do that next week, but I don't know. I don't really see it myself.
All right, there you go. That was Dynamite. I wouldn't say like. You go ahead with your thoughts.
Overall, I actually enjoyed the show, like because of the heights of literally, you know, the Omega Ospreay team up that I think was so great. The Hart Syndicate, you know, being on a new course, and I think Ricochet and Swerve is in a really good direction right now. Harley Cameron like had a great showing in her storyline, trying to campaign for a Mercedes Moné match. So I think all of those things are in really good shape. And again, it's because of the heights of the what came earlier that unfortunately made the ending feel somewhat flat.
All right, we're going to say goodbye to those that are joining us on the free feed, but the XL edition rolls on because now we are heading over to the Post Wrestling Forum to take all of your feedback and questions.